hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to?
Welcome again to Street Talk. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki. And on Street Talk, we deal with political, social, and economics here in Michigan, the U.S., and abroad. Now, joining me tonight,
Dennis Burnside.
Paget Maynard.
okay, man, we got a lot to cover. But what's this 25? What's that?
Well,
you know-
Project 2025 is, I guess the best way to describe it is a manifesto
You're right.
written by Right Wing Heritage Foundation, and it's been disseminated throughout the Republican Party and their operatives in the judicial branch. And it's really looking to make over the federal government as we know it, and more importantly, it's looking to obviate the last half of the 20th century. If you go back to the federal government that was created in the wake of the Great Depression and the programs that were implemented to bring the United States out of the Great Depression,
Okay.
and then some of the programs that were implemented post-World War II that had to do with voting rights, civil rights,
Yep.
some of the movements that we've seen in the late 20th century and early 21st century regarding rights of other minorities like the LGBTQ community,
Yeah.
the right to equal marriage, the right to equal rights, efforts along those lines. Project 2025 has specifically and in writing targeted these efforts.
Yes.
And they're looking to make much of what we take for granted as law no longer viable. And the scary part about it is you can see that they've got the United States Supreme Court in their pocket.
Oh, yeah.
They did a decent job of establishing a lot of federal judges who are in the Heritage Foundation pocket when Adolf Hitler was president. Biden has also been very effective in putting non-2025
Yeah.
type candidates in as federal judges. But where the rubber meets the road, of course, is at the Supreme Court level.
That's it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you're going to see them do things that are against what they always say is their governing ideology, which is stare decisis, which means it's already been decided. The Supreme Court decided in the past that this is the law, this is the standard. We're going to respect that. They said that at their hearings. They said that with regard to voting restrictions. They said that with regard to reproductive rights. And then they voted 180 degrees opposite of what they promised.
Yeah.
So they lied under
Yes.
oath. And you will now see a new federal government where you have people, rather than working for the civil service, they will be working under the pleasure of Donald Trump if
Yeah.
he wins the election.
Yeah.
And you'll see things like the civil service eliminated and people appointed to jobs based on their political ideology. As of right now, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, they actually have portals where you could apply for some of these jobs for future employment.
Yeah.
And one of the questions they ask is your loyalty
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Donald Trump.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can go all the way back to the formation of this country. I know it wasn't formed for us. We were just the labor, the free labor.
Yep.
It wasn't formed for women. They were just the bed warmers
Yeah.
in the kitchen help.
Yep.
It wasn't formed for non-property white men, for that matter.
Right. But
But you can see that they're trying to reinstall that type of ideology where only the elite have a say in how the country is governed, and anyone who isn't taking this seriously doesn't take note of what they're proposing, isn't aware of what they're trying to do, is doing it at their own peril.
well, the thing is that a lot of people just not looking into the things that Trump is already trying to get set up. I mean, he's already trying to get these things set up. Because he's sure he's going to win.
Absolutely.
And the thing is that I'm just hoping that the people would get out and vote, man, because I hear a lot of people, well, I ain't gonna vote. I don't like either one of them. I mean, it's like,
That's again, man. That's true every election.
Yeah.
The Washington Post, sometimes I forget, they just had an article this weekend about the double haters. They hate Biden. They hate Trump.
yeah,
Don't worry about the personalities. Worry
Right.
about the policies.
Yeah.
And I started to read the article. It was so frustrating. It was stupid. It was clickbait filler that you wouldn't expect from a top-notch newspaper.
Yep.
But damn what you think about Biden's age.
Right.
Look at his policies, what
Yeah.
he's passed and what he's proposing.
Yeah.
That ought to be your focus. Not
That
whether or not
is
he looks
important.
elderly
Yes.
and diminished by time. Look
Yeah.
at what Twitler is proposing.
yeah,
And not whether or not he's a slovenly adjudicated rapist who's been convicted 38 times of felony. Forget all that.
Right.
Look at the policies that these
Yep.
guys are proposing,
Yeah,
and
there's
ask if
never
you
any
want to live
policy.
in a country where your right to be part of the federal government is whether or not you're loyal to the monarch.
Yeah.
They ostensibly had a revolution to be free of one-man rule, to be free of a monarch.
Yep.
And I'll be damned if that's not what they're going back to
Yeah.
right now in order to say, enough of this women's rights,
Yeah.
enough of these gays, enough of these blacks, enough
Yeah.
of these Hispanics.
Yeah.
We wanted to be the way it was when our great-great-great-grandfathers in power, and they ran stuff, and they
Yeah.
ran it unilaterally.
Well,
That's what
And
we
they
want.
probably don't even realize where they're headed.
Oh, they realize
Well,
it? The people who are design this thing, you mean?
Some
Or
of
the
them,
people who vote for it?
They're doing the same, even the people at the Heritage. Some of them, they're just doing something because, but I think some
Not
of
the
it
Heritage
they don't
Foundation.
I
Not the
still-
Heritage
I
Foundation,
still think
Patrick.
some of them are not really fully there.
This is too well thought out. This
I know it's been going- it wasn't an overnight
this
thing.
has been going on for decades.
Right,
So
it
this is
was
the
an overnight
implementation.
thing.
This is the peak of it. It's not a matter of them being ignorant. They know exactly what they're
I'm not
what they're
saying
proposing.
that total ignorance, but some of them may not even understand
Not a chance.
the implications
Not a
or
chance.
some of the implications
Not
of
a
that.
chance. When you buy off, let's look at the Supreme Court. Okay, we've got Alito, who's corrupt.
yeah,
We found that out, right?
yeah,
And not only that, he's an insurrectionist.
yeah,
Okay, January 6th flag upside down,
Yeah.
the Christian nationalist flag hanging on his
Yeah.
property.
Yeah.
He blames his wife, who turns out to be a racist and anti-Semitic as well as a
Yeah.
liar. Clarence Thomas is bought off of trinkets.
yeah,
You just buy that you just buy that dude a couple of RVs and some private flights to
Yeah.
exotic places. He's satisfied. You've got the beer guzzler Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
He had his credit card debts paid off mysteriously.
Yeah.
That he had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth
Yeah.
when he came into the Supreme Court. They're gone now, and now you see the same thing with Gorsuch.
Yeah.
He's bought off.
Yeah.
He's paid off. So
Yeah.
they're corrupt. And
Yeah.
they're corrupt knowing that what the Heritage Foundation is proposing is completely anti-constitutional, unconstitutional. So, yeah,
Right.
Padgett, they know exactly what they're doing, all of them to the nth degree. They just
Okay.
don't give a damn about what you think because you don't have power if this passes.
And the
Right.
thing, and the thing is that bothers me is that Hispanics,
So,
majority.
No.
I would say, well, we can wait. We wait and see.
math means
We'll
something.
wait. We'll wait and
If
see.
they're over 50% supporting the Republicans, then you can say the majority. That's not where they are.
No, they're way back.
They're not
way
there.
less than
They
that.
they had 47%.
That's not majority.
That's less.
Well, we'll wait till after the vote, but they had 47%. And the way he talks about
of
Hispanics,
Hispanic men.
you know,
Of Hispanic men.
and it would seem to me that I seen a lady on TV Friday evening. I think it was Friday evening, but anyway, she's talking about the Democrats ain't doing this, ain't doing that, and we not doing. But what's the faggot Trump gonna do? You know, I mean, what's he gonna do? You know, we
Man, I don't know why you get frustrated, caught up on what individual voters in the ignorance say. Look at the aggregate. In the aggregate, Hispanic voters will vote Democratic in this presidential election. The only question is the margin. The margin may upset you, but what some individual clown who comes home and watches reality TV and is impressed by The Apprentice as a television show enough to think that guy there should be chief executive, he should be the executive of the country. Those are the kind of people I don't want to have a conversation with anyway because they're ignorant.
Well,
But so let's let them have their vote and their say. Let's look at the issues and what these people are going to be voting on. And if you look at the majority of Hispanics, especially Hispanic women, if you look at the majority of black people, especially black women, if you look at the majority of the LGBTQ community, you will see that they will support the Democratic candidate this fall because they know what the danger is. The only demographic that is really in play is a Republican white woman.
Yeah.
She is concerned based on doubt, on her reproductive rights, and you may see a shift among them away from the Republicans this fall. The white men in this country, they're predominantly conservative.
Yeah.
It's the socially acceptable thing to be. You don't want to go to the country club or to the ballpark and tell your boys that you're liberal.
Yeah.
You don't want to tell them that you're going to vote for a Democrat because you'll be ostracized.
Yeah.
But the people who vote on the issues, who look at things with clear eyes, that's the majority. That's the frustrating thing about this to me, gentlemen, is if you look at what the Heritage Foundation is advocating for, 80% of the country is against it. It doesn't matter what your label is, Democrat, Republican, in between. But when it comes down to voting, it's not based on issues, it's based on marketing and labels. And so when you have somebody ignorant tell you that's Hispanic or black, say, well, I don't know, I think the Republicans, screw them, whatever, let them go, because they're too dumb to have a conversation with anyway.
Well, we look at this is going by what we read and what we hear.
And you know it's not in cuss, like if we was at the Y,
Right.
Okay.
We
just want my
we
props.
we hear and we see, and I know it's not real when they show these little different charts. The younger people, they say the younger people are going to vote, not vote, and going to vote for this old what's his name, this old Kennedy guy. So
He may not even get on enough ballots.
well, he didn't have enough to
For
be
the-
on this thing Thursday night.
Now, if you want to be concerned about a demographic, if you got legitimate concerns about a demographic group whose participation or non-participation can be to the detriment of the Democrats this fall, not just at the executive level, but in the House and Senate, look at the young people, because they're disgusted at our foreign policy. They're disgusted at our foreign policy. And they're very well read, and they're very well informed, and you don't hear them saying things like the Democrats and the Republicans are all the same, I like Trump, because they don't say stupid stuff. They say specifically, I will not vote for anyone who's a party to the mass murder of innocent women and children in Gaza. I'm not going to do it, and you can't move me off my moral square. And to them, I salute them, and I say my hat's off. I understand. I wish you would consider the other impacts that this would have in all of our lives. You're not participating fully, but I certainly understand your moral position.
I understand it. I understand it well, but we have to be real, because after the election, they gonna still have to live, and for me,
We all will.
huh?
We all will have to live.
Yeah, I mean, so I can, as they say, hold my nose and vote for this guy.
But it comes down to what people do when they get to the polls. If you want to have something meaningful,
Okay.
you're going to have to think, look at what is being offered, look at what has been done by the two candidates, One is currently president. One was the most recent president. And make a judgment call from that.
Okay.
The problem we have is, like Dennis talked about the illiterates, they are going on not knowledge base, not what is right, but just simply, I am for this party, I'm for that person. And it doesn't matter what that person says or does, I'm going to vote there. We need to get them to understand we need president and a Congress, people who are interested in the country and the people of the country, who are willing to do what it takes to move this country forward, and not people who are interested in their own well-being financially and powerfully politically.
But see, the thing about it, we've been past that. You know, we don't have people now. Well, we got some people in government, but we look at a lot of people in government now, and I hate to say the Republicans, but they on an agenda, man. They got Trump. If they get Trump elected, they on an agenda. You see.
But the problem is they don't even understand if Trump is elected, they are dead.
Who's dead? Who's dead?
Okay, let me say it another way. It's like the end of what we know and believe and trusted for years, because this Donald Trump, if he becomes president, America as we know it will no longer be.
Hey, man, the America is you and I know it, may no longer be, but America is a historical entity, what it's been since 1776.
Okay.
I submit it's reverting to type. It ain't a brand new paradigm. It's going back to what it used to be, where white property men run things and everybody else is here at their pleasure. And so this idea that they don't know what they're doing, they don't know what they had planned, I think that's naive. They know exactly what they plan. Now, the people who vote for them
don't know.
Well, some don't.
Yeah.
Many do.
Yeah.
Some don't. But the people who work for the federal government, for example, you're talking about tens of thousands of people having their jobs taken away just like that. Just like that.
Because
you're talking about
rights.
You're talking about rights that you think are your constitutional imperatives, and they're going to tell you you don't have a right to vote.
Constitution.
You don't have a right to vote. There's no right to vote in the Constitution. We say if you have a right to vote. That's the future we're looking at. And when that hits people in the face and they start to realize what's really going on, it may be too late. But the idea, man, that these people are doing this half behind and willy-nilly is fallacy.
No, I don't think so.
They know exactly what they want.
I said earlier that I believe some of the folks may not be all the way up there on all that's going on, but as a whole, the project, the people on the project, they have something going, and like you mentioned, it's for several years now.
Oh, decades.
It's decades.
It's decades.
It's not just an overnight thing.
Yeah.
So it's well framed out. And they had a target date, 2025. Everything is going to be shifted under the president. And God forbid that man wins, because they might be disappointed because they'll have to shoot him out.
No.
He's not going to come out, and he's not going to be able to carry it through.
Now, here's the scary part about it, Paget. If, for example, Adolf Hitler loses the election this fall, and he's not able to assume power, do you think Project 2025 goes away?
No.
They're going to continue to build. They're going to
else.
continue to build the infrastructure and the apparatus until such time as they have another bozo who runs as a charismatic Republican, and they can implement it. It's not going away. They've done too many years. This has been going on since 1980.
Yeah.
So you will not see the end of 2025. You just see the date move.
The date change.
But the imperative, the objective is still going to be
Still
there.
gonna be the same, and maybe
And the
worse.
tactics are going to be the same. It just won't be a man who wears makeup and lifts and hairnet and is grossly out of shape, can't run across the street, who somehow that description is their paradigm of masculinity. That's who they think a real man is.
Yeah.
That's who they ideally want, because he's a perfect filler because his head is empty.
Yeah.
As long as they give him compliments and aggrandize his ego, he'll do whatever they tell him and put a little money in his pocket.
Yeah.
Let
You
him
just
let
said
him be free to
something,
grift, and he'll do whatever they say.
Yeah.
You just said something, man.
I hope I
His
did.
head is empty.
Of course
Yeah.
it is.
So he only could do what they ask him to do, if he has the ability to carry out that.
Well, the thing is here's a person that has no idea about anything that's right. His whole mind is just on what he can do.
Grifting.
You know.
Grifting. Yeah.
I mean, it's like
We know from the Mueller report
Right.
that he conspired with the Russians in the 2016 election.
Yeah.
That is not anything at all that's still in question.
Mm-hmm.
We know from the civil case that went on this spring that he's an adjudicated rapist
Yeah.
who was found owing $5 million and couldn't shut his mouth, was so undisciplined and went up to $85 million. We know from the 38 felonies he was just convicted of that he's a liar,
Yeah.
he's a thief,
Yeah.
and he's just a fundamentally dishonest man.
Right.
And we know just from the grand jury documents that he is an insurrectionist and he tried to overthrow the
Yeah.
government. in his
Yes.
country.
Yeah.
Now, for some people, all of those factors
It
are
would not have-
irrelevant because he's funny and he likes to own the libs with his little remarks. That's enough for them.
Yeah, yeah.
But the people who have the power that really want to see them in here, there's only a couple thousand of them, and that's that 2025 apparatus. And they're the danger.
Yeah.
And those are the people we need to be most focused on, in my opinion, in getting out the word to people and saying, you must vote this fall. I understand how you feel about Gaza. I understand how you feel about the Palestinians and what Israel's doing. I'm with you 1,000%. But we can't afford to let these clowns come in there, because if you think what's going on in Gaza is bad now,
Yeah.
let an administration that's running under the auspices of the 2025 manifesto take power.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be that and more, and it's going to be taking place in a favorite locale near you.
Yeah. And
Okay.
the thing about it, look how they did for the last 4 or 5 months. Now they got the people in what's the name of the place where the war is going on?
What, in Gaza or
Gaza.
in Ukraine?
Ukraine.
Yeah.
They got the people in Ukraine now that lost most of the ground that they had taken. Now they lost it back because
These bozos here wouldn't approve the
yeah,
funding.
they it's a thing
Ask yourself, why not?
because Trump.
Okay,
Big
okay,
Go-
all right.
Trump.
You got me half the way there. Now, why would
Putin.
Trump say? There you
Putin.
go. Okay, and what is Putin?
Putin is Trump puppet master.
He's an authoritarian, right?
And
Yeah.
And if you look all,
Trump
if you
is
look-
only
if you
interested
look
in them.
all over the Western world.
that's right.
France right now is having snap elections
Mm-hmm.
because the right wing authoritarians did so well in this last election
Exactly.
that the prime minister of France said, or president rather,
President.
said we need to have snap elections to let you people tell me
Yeah.
what kind of government that you want to have,
Yeah.
and they just might win. The right wing, and of all places that ought to scare everybody in the sleepless
Yeah.
nights that's taking place, is in Germany.
Yeah.
They're coming back. You see it in Belgium. You see it in Holland.
Yeah.
There seems to be
A resurgence.
an idea in the minds of many people that may be in their DNA, I don't know, but they would rather have authoritarianism and dictatorship rather than have a democracy where certain people who don't love like them, look like them, think like them, worship like them, have an equal say.
Right.
They'd rather have you. They'd rather be dictated to
Yeah.
than have somebody looks like you or me vote.
Yeah.
Could it be?
That's what we're up against
Could it
worldwide.
be that they just, well, let me switch it this way. Could it be that the Democrats, and I'm not talking about just America,
Yeah.
Democrats
Small
as
D
a
Democratic
whole,
people.
right.
Yeah.
Could it be that they didn't make their message clear enough that people are beginning to want to gravitate back towards?
It's easy to propagandize people, man. For example, by any empiric measure, we're living in the best economy we've had in the United States since World War II. But there's two key factors, man, that are frustrating people: the cost of food
Yep.
and the cost of housing.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look at the cost of housing. Why is housing going up so much against all the fundamental economic principles that say when you have a high supply and a low demand, you should be able to get lower prices, okay? When the demand is high and the supply low, then you have a higher price. Right now, we're in a situation where there's plenty of supply.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of demand.
Yeah.
But the prices keep going up. Well, let's pull back the curtain and see why. We come to find out that there's groups of these plutocrats who belong to some of these hedge funds who are buying up real estate, buying up houses, buying up apartment complexes by the dozens all over the country and raising prices. And they're hedging their bets. And look, all we got to do is just hold on to our money and put it in here, and we'll either get what we demand or we'll have people out in the street, and eventually they'll meet our market. That's the reason why we have such a bad housing
I had
market.
a call before, and I got something keep popping up in my phone now. We will buy your house. No this, no that, no that. As is, no haggling. We're going to pay you what you want.
Yeah.
We will clean it up. Just take out what you want. Don't worry.
They won't give you what you want, but they'll buy your house.
You know? Well, I want to sell my house. And you're coming now and telling me that I could get $250,000, $300,000 for my house. Man, it's encouraging to sell. But when you finish selling now, where you going?
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to spend more money if you want to buy back something else.
Of course, of course. We're turning into, you got neighborhoods that were previously 100% owned that are now turning into rental properties. You've got situations in university towns where people used to live in decent neighborhoods who can't even afford to live there anymore because the Airbnbs and these other oligarchs are buying up the property. And on football weekends, they make more in 6 weekends than he would in 5 years just selling it or renting it out. So we've got a lot of work to do, but it's real hard when you've got oligarchs in the government, when you've got oligarchs in the House, the Senate, you've got a corrupt judiciary which is representing the oligarchs, and now you've got a movement afoot that says we're going to take away the government as you know it, and the right to vote, the right to free speech. The only thing that's really sacrosanct with these cats is the Second Amendment, and I submit that once the Second Amendment is utilized, use your imagination that way. There's a movie out right now about it. Once that's over with, they'll take away the Second Amendment. Because they don't want the streets awash. You know, I went to a wonderful event this past weekend out in East Lansing Jazz Festival. Weather was nice, music was great, saw people I knew, met new people. It was a wonderful experience. But constantly, in the back of my mind, is somebody gonna come through here with an AK and start spraying?
Oh, yes.
You can't help but think about it. And then you read articles that say, why are the movie theaters failing? Why are the summer blockbusters not bringing in crowds? Because I ain't the only one thinking that way.
No.
Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine, messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. if you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.